Hi, I'm Jeff Murrah. I want to welcome you to True Texas History, where today we are going to go ahead and cover the Turtle Bayou Resolutions, which took place on the 13th of June, 1832. I decided to go ahead and do this after yesterday and talking about what happened in the Battle of Nacogdoches, and I realized that with episodes like the Turtle Bayou Resolutions, in our Texas history classes, we read about them, we recognize the name, but we really don't understand what happened and the significance of it. So that's what I was going to do today. To go ahead and put things on a timeline, you had, the capture of Travis and William Jack by Juan Davis Bradburn. It was actually John Davis Bradburn, but they called him Juan because they felt like he sold out to Mexico. And he was held in the jail. And it's between this and the Battle of Nacogdoches when the Turtle Bayou Resolutions went down. Now, let me go ahead and explain a little bit about Mexican law. Because under the Mexican system, you typically have, whenever you have grievances against the government, you have what is called, you make a statement, or they call it a grito. And after making the statement, if there's no counter statement, then it becomes something called a let's see if I can even, pronunciamiento, or a pronouncement. And then, if things continue and it's still making progress, then you have a plan, and you name your plan after wherever it was drafted. So this is why in Mexican history you'll find things like the Plan of Iguala, the Plan of this place or that place. And in many ways, these colonists were, under the Mexican Constitution, they were trying to do things according to the Mexican customs. Now, somehow this piece gets left out of stuff, because I saw some articles by NPR and some of those other joints, and they said, well, rebels always put down their reasons for rebelling against the government in writing, in describing the Turtle Bayou Resolutions. That wasn't the case at all. This is why you have to know your history and know a little bit of background. Otherwise, you can be led astray by people like that, and like that new book, Forget the Alamo, and the misleading stuff that's there. But after all the episode at Anahuac, they went ahead and drafted the Turtle Bayou Resolution. And guess what? It took place on Turtle Bayou. Turtle Bayou is a small riverway that empties into the Anahuac area there at Chambers County, with lots of alligators. Now, in drafting the Turtle Bayou Resolutions, they went ahead and spelled out all their gripes and concerns. And I guess this part, I'm going to be going ahead and reading some of it, but let me go ahead and start off with the preface. First, that the Mexican cavalrymen held as prisoners by the Texans should be released, and second, that the Texans should retire to Turtle Bayou, but they should leave a commission to receive the imprisoned citizens who were to be delivered to them the following day. Okay, so essentially, we're going to have a prisoner exchange. Then we get into the resolutions themselves. The colonists of Texas have long been convinced of the arbitrary and unconstitutional measures of the administration of Bustamante as evinced, and then it goes into a series of, point 1, point 2, and they lay it all out. To give you an idea of what went on, you had this power struggle, Santa Anna and Bustamante had a short time before issued, let's see, what's it called? there's 18 articles. The Articles of Bustamante, the Bustamante Decree, and he went and nilly-willy made a lot of changes. And the colonists were fuming over it because they felt that this is against the law. This is against the Constitution. You just can't arbitrarily, by this presidential decree, make things happen. Of course, nowadays you have executive orders, but back then there were reactions to those things. And let's go into them. There's 7 points they make and 4 resolutions. So I'm going to go over those real quick. Number 1, by the repeated violations of the Constitution and laws and total disregard of the civil and political rights of the people. So the main thing that they were griping about is how the government there was violating their civil and political rights in violation of the Constitution of 1824. Number 2, by fixing and establishing among us in time of peace military posts, the officers of which, totally disregarding the local civil authorities of the state, have committed various acts evincing opposition to the true intent of the people in the enjoyment of civil liberty. In other words, they were complaining about the placement of soldiers there during peacetime. They felt as though that was totally inappropriate, and also noted that the soldiers totally disregarded any civil authority. They did not respect the Texian government and the local magistrates at all. Number 3, by arresting the commissioners, especially Juan Francisco Madero, who on the part of the state government was to put the inhabitants east of the Trinity River in possession of other lands in conformity with the laws of colonization. So they were upset by the arrest of one of the commissioners concerning where people were supposed to settle, because things were changed arbitrarily. The local military authorities, were making decisions as to where people would settle when they had made other arrangements. You start messing with people's real estate, they get upset. Number 4, by imposition of military force, preventing the alcalde of the jurisdiction of liberty from the exercise of his constitutional functions. So in other words, the Mexicans were using military force to prevent the local mayor from carrying out his constitutional authority. They were interfering with it. Number 5, by appointing the Revenue Department men whose principles are avowedly to the true interests of the people of Texas, and 2, when their character for infamy had been repeatedly established. So in other words, they had tax collectors that didn't have a good reputation, and they still maintained them in office. This is just a nice way of going ahead and putting it. Number 6, by the military commandant of Anahuac, advising and procuring servants to quit the service of their masters and offering them protection, causing them to labor for his benefits and refusing to compensate for the same. This is the only one related to slavery, and essentially Bradburn was taking slaves away from the slave owners and then not compensating. It's unclear here whether he was not compensating the slave owners or the slaves, but he was making the slaves go ahead and do his dirty work. So I can see how they would have cause for concern there. Number 7, by imprisonment of our citizens without lawful cause and claiming the right of trying said citizens by a military court for the offense of character cognizable by civil authority alone. In other words, they were complaining because Travis and William Jack had been imprisoned by military authorities, and these people were trying to intervene to stop Travis and William Jack from being tried in a military court. They did not feel as though it was a military matter. Resolved. Okay, in other words, these are conclusions that we view with feelings of deepest regret the manner in which the government of the Republic of Mexico is administered by the present dynasty. The repeated violation of the Constitution, the total disregard of law, the entire prostration of the civil power are grievances of such character as to arouse feelings of every freeman and impel him to resistance. So in other words, anybody, your average person would be upset and incensed at what was going on, because they were in violation of the Constitution and law, and in disregard of the total disregard of civil power. Second resolution, that we view with feelings of deepest interest and solicitude the firm and manly resistance which is made by these patriots under the highly and distinguished chieftain Santa Anna, the numerous encroachments and infractions which have been made by the present administration upon the laws and constitution of our beloved and adopted country. So in other words, they're proclaiming their allegiance to Mexico, and they're saying, they're identifying Santa Anna as somebody who is standing up for their rights, and they feel like there's been a lot of encroachments. Third one, that as free men devoted to the correct interpretation and enforcement of the Constitution laws according to their true spirit, we pledge our lives and our fortunes in support of the same, and of those distinguished leaders who are gallantly fighting in defense of civil liberty. So civil liberty was one of their big concerns, and they also espoused support for Mexico. I mean, when people pledged their lives, their fortunes to the support of Mexico, that's a pretty strong statement, which is what they were making here in the Turtle Bayou Resolutions. Final resolution, that all the people of Texas be united to cooperate with us in support of the principles incorporated in the foregoing resolutions. So I wanted to go, I know it's boring to read, but I wanted to go ahead and read these and go over them with you, because when you hear the documents in their original language, you're not so easily led astray by NPR or some Johnny-come-lately hack writer who is producing stuff to sell books. And the Turtle Bayou Resolutions, I think most historians do agree, it started things rolling in terms of getting the Texians together and united. And it's something that's often overlooked in terms of its significance. And I wanted to go ahead and go over it and go over what the actual gripes of the people were and what they said. These were not unlearned hicks. They were educated men who knew how to speak and who knew how to write, and they knew how to use their words very effectively. But the Turtle Bayou Resolutions and some of the other conventions and resolutions, I wanted to go ahead and explain the Mexican law system so that you understand what all these little names were for and why did they do it that way. Well, now you know. Well, if you have any questions, concerns, feel free to leave them below. I'll be glad to get to them. So until next time, this is Jeff Morrow wishing you vaya con Dios, my friends. Goodbye.